Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Collecting Canadian Cavalry and Armour. This will be the second edition of Windsor Regiment stuff. We're going to take a look at shoulder titles, cloth shoulder titles. And I know what you're thinking, how many could there be for the Windsor Regiment? But surprisingly, there's a bunch of different variations and stuff like that. And again, if you get Bill Alexander's book, The Fabric of War, fantastic book, you got to get this stuff. Some of these are actually featured in there. So, let's take a quick look. Well, actually, not a quick look. Let's just take a look at some of these shoulder titles. Now, the first one we're going to look at is attached to this battle dress uniform. Now, we'll have our excellent cameraman take a closer look at this, but this is the actual first pattern that came out. And you'll notice in between Windsor and Regiment, there's a little dash or hyphen right there. That went away after they started producing them later on, but this is one of the first ones, and you can tell on this battle dress uniform the W02 rank still has the Tudor crown. So this would be right after they became the Windsor Regiment in the late 40s, and this was the first run here. So these ones are a little bit harder to find. Just very lucky to pick up this this jacket from the estate of Colonel Gibson, John Gibson, after he passed, God rest his soul. Ex-CO and then commander of Windsor Militia District back in the late 70s, early 80s. But anyway, was able to get this from the estate. And again, first pattern. Then they went to this pattern here, which is very, very similar. Colors slightly different. But you'll notice here that there's no hyphen in between the Windsor and the Regiment. So these ones they wore for quite a while in the early 50s. And then they changed around to this pattern here. And we'll show you a picture of the Windsor Regiment guys wearing the battle dress with these shoulder titles, but they're still wearing the Essex Regiment tank badge. Because they we're trying to come up with a new design for the Windsor Regiment badge, and they kicked around a few ideas. By the time they finally got it settled, the King had passed, and Queen Elizabeth II, God rest her soul, ascended the throne, and so now we have the badge that we're all used to. I'm still not sure if they're going to change to the Tudor crown on the current Windsor Regiment badge. Now that we're going to have at least 3 generations of kings, that remains to be seen. But once I find out, I will let you know, because that's just what we do here on the Collecting Canadian Cavalry and Armour. So, let's take a look at some of these different ones here. Now, this one here, as you can tell, is more of a modern interpretation of this one, but I've never seen any photographic evidence this was actually ever worn by the regiment. It was worn by the cadets, this pattern, but not by the regiment that I can see. And if anybody's out there and who has a photo, please let me know, because I would love to update all my information. Speaking of cadets and things, stick with the regiment first. So then we have this one here that was produced for the garrison dress, and we'll show you a picture of the garrison dress again with these shoulder titles on. After a while, the cadets started wearing this pattern as well. Now, speaking of cadets, while the regiment was wearing these, the cadets had a fully embroidered version of this badge here that they wore. Okay, and then they decided to switch back over to this pattern. Now, out there somewhere, we have a really, really bad example of the cadet shoulder titles. When you compare these two, you can see it's night and day difference. This is only embroidery on the for the lettering, and it's some kind of loose material there that everything is embroidered on. Now, we went to order these for the cadets, and the company that we ordered from got the size wrong. And so they've got this little mini one, okay, which of course was not acceptable. And all but one, this one, was sent back to be destroyed and send us the proper size. So this is a very rare, one of a kind, miniature Windsor Regiment shoulder title. Okay, it's an error, but still, it's the only one there is, I think, I hope. Okay, now, this pattern here, you'll notice I've got a few of them on the table. I'll show you a close look. Different manufacturers, different time frames, but the backs are different. You can see one's all black. You can see the lettering on this one. These other two, you can there's no yellow stitching, all black but no yellow stitching. And in this one, you can see the, for some reason, it's nice and light on the block, even though it's black on this side. Kind of weird. I don't know, man. Some things I just don't know. So anyway, does it really matter, price-wise? No. Does it really matter unless you're some kooky collector like myself that wants to get a lot of the different stuff? It doesn't really matter. But as you can tell, there's some minor variations, minor differences. It's just one of those things. So after the battle dress went away, okay, the regiment started to wear the Canadian Forces green uniform. Everybody wore that. And they came out with the shoulder titles for those. And it was in a bright gold fabric, or I should say bright gold thread. And then they came out with one with a duller gold. Duller? I'm not sure if that's a word or not, but I think it should be. If it isn't, we'll see. We'll get in the dictionary. So you can see bright gold and old gold, they called it. And then on the back, you can see the differences on the rear of the shoulder title. Now, for wearing the shirts, we had the light green shirt that went with it, very similar we still have with the DEU. You would wear this on the epaulette, on the shoulder, a little slip on there. And when you're wearing the work dress, you would wear these ones. Okay. For the combat uniform, the old green combat uniform, we just had the standard Windsor R, which, as you guys know, is the same as the brass shoulder titles that are worn currently on our on the uniforms. So after we got the CAD-PAT, we come out with the CAD-PAT ones, and then the war in Afghanistan came along, and they did the Arid CAD-PAT for the guys for the regiment that went over, and enough went over that the regiment was granted the battle honor for Afghanistan, which was kind of cool, helping the regiment to get that first battle honor. And then, and I don't know what the hell anybody was thinking, they decided to come out with high vis on the camouflage uniform. Like, doesn't that kind of defeat the whole idea behind camouflage, making something you can see really bright, and all the badges and everything else? But anyway, that's obviously way higher than my pay grade, and nobody asked me. That's okay. So anyway, this is the latest one that's out now with the high vis on the CAD-PAT. So, Windsor Regiment shoulder titles. Kind of neat. Like I said, there's lots of little variations and stuff like that. The hardest one to find, again, is the original with the little hyphen. I've only got these ones here on the uniform, and I have one I was kicking around in a box in storage. One of these days when I can set things up, they'll come out. And we'll do another update on some of the uniforms and things like that I haven't been able to put out. So we're going to take a look now at the shoulder titles being worn on the garrison dress, and then we've got another battle dress one that'll show you the shoulder titles. So we'll be right back. So here we have a battle dress uniform to a lieutenant colonel wearing the second pattern. I'm calling them the second pattern Windsor Regiment badge. You notice there's no hyphen in between here. It's a nice jacket, dated 1952 on the inside. Beautiful markings on the inside. But so, yeah, second pattern being worn on a lieutenant colonel's jacket. If you take a look at the Bill Alexander's book or the Windsor Regiment book, the Black Beret, you can see some of these pictures of this stuff being worn in there. So here's the garrison dress with that fully embroidered Windsor Regiment shoulder title, and you have an example there of the slip-on that goes onto the epaulette with Windsor R. A little redundant having both of them, but that's just the way they want us to wear them. And of course, you have the old warrior badge from, this is 90 something or other, or 80 something or other. And just for general knowledge, we have the trade badge down here, but we looked at this in a previous episode. So here is those shoulder titles being worn on the jackets. Hope you like it. So last episode, when we talked about the Windsor Regiment badges, there was one that I didn't have available at the time, but when I dug out some of the uniforms, I came across this badge. So this is a blackened Windsor Regiment badge. When Colonel Holford was CO, I believe it was his second time. It was the first. Anyway, we were still in the Cougars and the armored vehicles, not the old ladies. We liked wearing our berets with the headsets that were available at the time. But they were making us take our cap badges off because that little glint of brass would be the thing that would draw everybody's attention to a great big 18-ton armored vehicle moving around. Okay, whatever. So we talked to the colonel, and he was good enough to say, look, if you want to blacken a badge and wear that, he was fine with it. So he gave us the blessing, and that lasted for a couple of years until we got switched over to recce, and then we went to the soft caps and stuff. But you'll notice that this is just a standard issue Windsor Regiment badge with the lugs on the back, painted black. So if you want one for your collection, that's really all you have to do. Just paint one black. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Windsor Regiment shoulder titles and that type of thing. Like I said, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 episodes out of Windsor Regiment stuff because we have a lot of the oddball stuff coming up, which is kind of neat. If you're a goofy collector like myself, that will pick up almost anything. You guys should probably figure that out by now. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time, and happy collecting.